to the Magical Experiments YouTube channel. If you're watching this video and you aren't subscribed, click the subscribe button below and click the little bell notification. So today I thought I would talk about the topic of, what are the benefits that spirits get from working with us? I mean, we know what the benefits are when it comes to us working with spirits. We know that, for example, we might choose to work with a spirit because we want to access its knowledge and its expertise. Or we might work with a spirit because that spirit might be able to influence events or influence situations our way. Or we might work with the spirit because we want to have a devotional or a communal relationship with that spirit. And there's many other reasons for working with spirits, but I think those kind of cover the major ones for why people choose to work with spirits. But, I think it's worthwhile to explore the question of what are the benefits that spirits get from working with us. I mean, we know what the benefits are for us, but what do they get out of the equation? And of course, the question might be, well, why do we even care about that? Well, I think we should care because, we always want to make sure in any kind of relationship that you're in, that you're living up to your end of that relationship, that you're doing what you need to do to make sure that relationship is working the way that it should work. So I think it is important to explore this question of what the benefits are. So if we think about it from this perspective, then we have to consider a couple things. One, our understanding of what the benefits are that a spirit gets from working with us is always going to be based or biased because of our human filter. You know, I mean, I'm speaking to this from the perspective of my human experience. So I can take a guess at what the benefits are, and some of those guesses may be accurate, and certainly we can ask spirits if in fact they're accurate. But what we always have to keep in mind is that we're still framing it within a human context. And a spirit's context is going to be different because the spirit's operating from a different frame of reference. I only mention that because I think it's worthwhile to always also recognize that just because you perceive something to be of a benefit to a spirit doesn't necessarily mean that it looks at it in quite the same way. So with that said, what are the benefits? Why would spirits want to work with us? Well, we have to consider the type of relationship. Let's say for example, it's the relationship of a deity and its worshippers. The benefit there is that the deity gets the belief of those worshippers. Those worshippers are feeding it with their belief, and it in turn, is helping them in some form or manner. Um, I think that that's like a pretty obvious benefit that a spirit would get, but we don't necessarily, as magicians, always worship spirits. Um, some magicians do, some don't, and again, I'm not going to tell you one way or another which is right or which is wrong. So, what are at that point you might say, okay, Taylor, well, what are the benefits then? Like, why would you want to work with a spirit, and or why would a spirit want to work with you? Well, a spirit might want to work with you because of the fact that it gets access to the material world through you. For example, sometimes what I've done is when I've worked with the spirit is I made the offer to the spirit that it could ride along in my body and experience the sensations of food and of me eating food and drinking or doing other activities in return for its help. Spirits don't have the same material substance that we do. They don't have the same access to the material world. So what they're getting a taste of that material world through us. The same thing applies when you look at like offerings. Like, why do we leave out offerings of food and drink or other things for spirits? Well, we know that the spirit isn't physically eating the food, but they are nonetheless imbibing the essence of the food or the drink or whatever else the offering is. So they are getting some type of connection or some type of benefit from it. Um, Another example of this would be if you gave some type of bodily essence to the spirit. So let's say you chose to shed some blood or some tears or whatever else and offered that up as an exchange. Well, they're getting that access to that life force. and that's what they're getting access to. They're getting access to that exchange, and of course, in return, they're giving us access to their essence, their abilities, their perceptions. And what it seems to me, and this is just again based on my own experience, but also based on reading books of other people and hearing other people talk about their work with spirits, what it seems to me is that the benefit that spirits really get is the benefit of the experiences that we have and how those experiences are shared with those spirits. They're not manifest in the world the same that we are, and when we acknowledge that, and we acknowledge that they exist not necessarily at a higher level or a lower level, but at a different level of existence, a different frequency, we might consider that also they're able to safely access this frequency of existence through us and through the ways that we interact with them. Whereas if they tried to access this frequency of existence separate from us, it might be more dangerous for them. It may be something that is potentially harmful. So again, this is something to consider when we look at how we are working with spirits and what the benefits are that they're getting. I think the best way to discover the benefit, though, is to basically ask the spirit what it wants. When I connect with the spirit to work with it, I'll ask it, like, what do you want? What is it that you're looking for? What do you want from me? And invariably, what I get from it is, I want recognition. Like if I'm working with a goetic demon, for example, I might praise that demon. And if you've watched some of the older videos in this channel, you've seen me do that, in fact. Or I might write about the spirit in a book. Or if I'm working with an angel, I might perform. I might perform specific activities that the angel thinks would be helpful in general. Like, for example, I've written a couple books where it was basically like the angels came down and they're like, "You got to write those books, dude. Those books are what we want from you." Or in the case of the elemental spirits, it was doing some type of environmental work or something along those lines. So, I mean, the best thing to do is approach the spirit and consider the context of the spirit. What does it want? What are you willing to give it in return for what you want from it? And of course, be honest about what you want. And then the most important thing is follow through on what you've chosen to give to the spirit. You know, I've never done this, but I've always heard stories where people are like, "Yeah, I asked a spirit to do this for me or do that, and they did this thing for me, but I didn't follow through on what I was supposed to do, and then things started to go wrong." Well, yeah, I mean that's a pretty obvious thing right there because you gave your word. You said that you were going to do something, and then you chose not to do it. Of course, things are going to start to go wrong because you have made an agreement and then you've chosen to go back on that agreement and you've chosen to do something else instead. And I would say really that when it boils right down to it, it's really essential for you to acknowledge and recognize that if you're going to work with spirits, you should choose to work with them in a way where you really are able to follow through on what you've promised. And if you have any hesitancies or doubts, then don't make the agreement with the spirit. Don't put yourself out there in a way where you're like, I don't know if I should have done this. I mean, life is hard enough as it is when we make mistakes, but let's not make mistakes that we could avoid. If you're not 100% on board with what you want done, or what you're willing to agree to for the spirit, then don't do it. Don't make that agreement. It is okay to initiate contact with the spirit and tell it what you want and hear what it wants, and then say, this isn't going to work for me. And I might add, it's okay for the spirit to do the same thing. I mean, I've had that happen with a couple spirits where I made initial contact, and the spirit was like, "No, I don't want to work with you." Okay, fair enough. I'm not going to take it personally. I mean, it is what it is. Not all spirits are going to necessarily want to work with you. And of course, I mean, you could go with the grimoire purist approach and be like, well, I'm going to compel that spirit to work with me. I'm going to force it to work with me. But then you have to keep in mind, like, do you really want that kind of a relationship with the spirit? Like, would you want to coerce or compel somebody, or be coerced or compelled by somebody? I can tell you from personal experience, it is no fun being compelled or coerced by somebody. It is a manipulative, traumatic experience. And why shouldn't it be the same for spirits? Don't do to a spirit what you wouldn't do to another person, or what you wouldn't want done to you. Which I guess is a variant of that, the Christian golden rule, which is, hey, a good rule, to live by. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or don't do unto others as you wouldn't have them do unto you. Again, we all make mistakes, so keep that in mind too. I mean, that's just the process of living life, but make sure you're really clear on what you're doing and why you're doing it, and make sure that you understand what you're asking of a spirit. Now, something that may be helpful to you, if you want to learn more, is to check out my book, Walking with Spirits, which is available on Amazon, both in ebook and paperback and audiobook. So check that out if that's of use to you. That may be helpful. That's kind of where I present my own take on working with spirits, and present some stuff that I haven't even shared here. I mean, this is kind of a very basic kind of exploration of, like, how you should work with spirits and what the benefits are. But most importantly, regardless of whatever else you do, just keep in mind that, like, how you choose to show up in life with spirits, or with anything else for that matter, is what you will get out of the situation. So if you made an agreement, follow through. If you want to understand what the benefits are for the spirit, ask them. They'll answer you. I mean, and then you have to determine for yourself whether or not that's something that you want to follow through on. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. And I will see you sometime next week.